Well, speaking of wasting money, Bjorn, our Chris Bowen came back the other day from the latest United Nations Climate Conference, the 29th of them, where he gave away another 50 million of our money and negotiated that 300 billion US a year package. I've been struck by a graphic you produced in your latest column, which is devastating about this climate conference, showing the years of every one of those past conferences going back nearly 3 decades, all plotted against global greenhouse emissions. I see no change at all apart from when businesses shut down during the pandemic briefly. What should this graphic tell us?
Well, what it fundamentally shows us is that CO2 levels keep going up. We keep emitting more CO2. And remember, we do this because fossil fuels, which is the main reason we emit CO2, deliver a lot of good for humanity. It basically delivers a lot of baseload power. It delivers opportunity for especially poor countries to get themselves out of poverty. Now, there is a problem again, but you're not going to get to solving that problem by telling people, oh, we promise to be good. That's essentially what they've done for the last 29 UN climate conferences. Everyone has promised, oh, we're going to cut carbon emissions in the future. And of course, we do no such thing because it is actually very, very costly. Now, the rich countries are increasingly, and so Australia is increasingly actually reducing their emissions. They're reducing their consumption, for instance, of electricity. That has real cost. We're seeing many of those costs here in Europe. But the problem is there's a big whole world out there who's still poor and wants to be rich. And they're the ones driving this. We're not going to solve climate by promising to be virtuous or by promising away. I love the fact that you focus on the $50 million that Chris Bowen gave away. But of course, the $300 billion that we're promising to give in 2035 is going to be $10 billion just from Australia each and every year. That's a lot of money.
It's just unbelievable. That's where I've got to disagree with you. The first 28 conferences were promised to be good. This last one was, give me the cash. Give me the cash. It's such a cargo cult now. But another thing that you've pointed out in your excellent filleting of what actually happened, our Chris Bowen told us just last week that we are well on track in transitioning to wind and solar. Here he is.
This statement tells us that we're on track for our emissions reduction target of 43% and for our 82% renewable energy target.
But Bjorn Lomborg, you've said that globally at least there is no transition. That's according to your calculations. When you look at all the extra energy added in the year to June last year, 65% of it actually still came from fossil fuels, 7% from nuclear power, which we've banned here, and just 28% from renewables, despite all those massive subsidies. Why is that? Why is this the future so stubbornly coal and gas?
Because most countries want cheap and reliable energy. So look, Australia and other rich countries can afford to be virtuous and say, we're going to pay a lot more money. I don't know if you saw the new data that shows that the UK is now paying the most for its electricity, both for industry and for households, of any country in the world. They've basically gone all radical green, but it has a huge cost. And we need to recognize that. But most of the world is not going to play along. So China got a lot of renewable, but even got more coal last year. Indonesia, Bangladesh, India got much, much more. India got more green, but 3 times more coal, fundamentally because coal is reliable. It is something that you can turn on when you need it, whereas, of course, solar and wind only plays when nature wants it. And we can't run a society in that. This is what all governments around the world are now realizing. This is going to be fantastically costly and probably impossible to do.